What is going on, Colts Nation? Welcome back to another episode of Bring the Juice. Your guys, Derek and Cody, with you as always. And guys, the Kansas City Chiefs won the Super Bowl once again, back to back. They're looking to try to go three-peat next year. They are the next dynasty of the NFL. We had those years, all those long years with the New England Patriots, and now here we are with Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, and that's pretty much all you need right now. And this Kansas City Chiefs team, they are the real deal. And now everyone has their sights on how are they going to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, Cody, this year, it's definitely a crazy set of circumstances because even in a down year for the Kansas City Chiefs, probably the worst year from a visual standpoint that we've seen from them since they won their first Super Bowl with Patrick Mahomes, and they still won the Super Bowl despite looking the worst that they have been in pretty much the last 6 years. So this is definitely a wild turn of events, and now the big question for every team is they're wondering, it's not about can you win the Super Bowl? It's about, can you beat the Chiefs? And what do you say to that? I mean, is it now just find out who can beat the Chiefs, and if you can do that, then you end up winning the whole thing?
Pretty much, man. That's what it seems like. It seems like no matter how much it seems like the Kansas City Chiefs are dead in the water, no matter how much it seems like the Kansas City Chiefs are done, at the end of the day, their talent and their coaching and just everything about them, those things shine through. And yeah, this year wasn't pretty for Kansas City in a lot of ways, right? We thought, okay, maybe this is a year they don't go to the Super Bowl, because there were points, Derek, where it was pretty bad for the Kansas City Chiefs. But again, Derek, when you look at the most important position in all of sports, I mean, I thought it was kind of funny because I think T.Y. Hilton actually tweeted it out. He said, the game was, I don't remember how he said it, but basically he said Brock Purdy is a game manager, but the game was won by the franchise guy. And that's exactly what I think you say, right, with Patrick Mahomes, is like, he is that guy. He is that difference maker, that it doesn't matter if, your receivers hardly can't catch at times, or whatever, or if your defense is having a bad year or whatever it is. If you have the talent at the right places, right, like the Chiefs do, and if you have the right head coach, like the Chiefs do, I mean, at the end of the day, Derek, you only play them once, and if you don't get them the first time, that's it, man. And Kansas City, I mean, to give them credit, man, they kept fighting, they kept scratching and clawing. It wasn't pretty at times for Kansas City. I mean, they scored 3 points in the first half alone. But then, ultimately the talent came through. And I think that's what you look at, Derek, is, those teams who are betting on, some of those young quarterbacks and hoping that they find the next Patrick Mahomes. That's why you see different teams like, the Buffalo Bills, taking a chance on Josh Allen. That's why you see teams, for better or for worse, trading up for guys with some of those traits, right? Because you hope that they can become what Patrick Mahomes has become, because there are a lot of people, when the Chiefs took Patrick Mahomes, they had no idea that he would be maybe even a long-term starter, let alone the best quarterback arguably of all time that we've seen in a long time. So for that being said, man, I think you just look at it, you say, no matter how much talent you have, because let's be real, the San Francisco 49ers, they're a more talented team on paper than the Kansas City Chiefs are. No doubt they are. I mean, they are stacked, absolutely. But when it came down to it, the quarterbacks, I think, were the difference in this game. Brock Purdy missed some throws. He missed some opportunities in this game. And Patrick Mahomes, well, yeah, it wasn't perfect for him. He had a couple boneheaded mistakes. But ultimately, he is the reason. And that's why we said it when we were looking at the Super Bowl. Why are you letting the Chiefs hang around? Because Patrick Mahomes is that great. And he will make you pay for it if you don't take and not basically knock the lights out of Kansas City early. He's going to do what he's going to do. He's just that type of guy. And so, yeah, when you look at all the teams in the AFC, I mean, it is Kansas City's, conference. It just is. It has been that for years, and it's going to continue to be that until some team can figure out how to put Kansas City away, and no team was able to do that this year when it mattered.
Yeah, and the T.Y. Hilton tweet you were referring to, he tweeted, a game manager went down and got 3, a game changer went down and got 6, but somebody
Yes.
was the bad guy. Good night. So, it's basically saying how, they both went down there. They both have different titles, but they both in some way were able to help their team move forward. But at the end of the day, somebody is going to end up getting in trouble for how the game turned out. Um, let's just hop right into it, man. I mean, everyone is asking what their team has to do in order to be able to put away the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, I will say this, it is funny that the last 3 times that the Kansas City Chiefs have played the Indianapolis Colts have won all 3 times, which is pretty funny to say the least, given every circumstance, because Kansas City, and it seems like as if Kansas City just never really takes the Colts seriously, and they just end up losing because of it. What do you believe is the top things that Indianapolis either already has or needs in order to be able to beat the Kansas City Chiefs in the next several years with Patrick Mahomes being
Yeah, I mean, the things that they have. I mean, the obvious thing is Anthony Richardson, right? Having the dynamic type of quarterback that can rise to the occasion, just like Patrick Mahomes can, right? The type of player that when it comes down to it, like T.Y. Hilton said, a game manager will help you stay in games, but ultimately a game changer will help you win those games. And so I think really for the Colts, it's Anthony Richardson developing into what they hope he can become. And if he can become what they hope he can become, it's going to be. They have a good chance. They have a good chance as anybody. I mean, really. But so that's what the Colts have. Now, I think what they need, and Derek, you just think about it. If the 49ers had, one of the best, quarterbacks that wasn't necessarily quote unquote a game manager, right? If they had a player like Patrick Mahomes or whatever, like with how loaded that roster is, I mean, you saw how they were able to stifle Patrick Mahomes for a good chunk of that game. And I just wonder, man, like if can accumulate some talent, specifically pass rush, making him uncomfortable back there. I mean, you have to do that with every quarterback, right? But specifically with Patrick Mahomes, if you can make him uncomfortable, we saw, I mean, for a half at least, the 49ers had the formula, man. They figured it out. They figured out how to slow him down for a little bit of time. And so you think, man, it's San Francisco. I mean, how many drives, Derek, stalled before they got started for San Francisco? I mean, how long did that defense for the 49ers keep them in that game and really give them opportunities to blow it out and blow it out of the water and really put the nail in the coffin? But the offense failed multiple times to do that. And so I just think you need to have a defense, and obviously San Francisco they are the defense. They're like the magnum opus of the defenses, right? They're one of the top defenses, no question about it. They got a lot of talent on that defense. But again, you've got to be able to consistently harass the quarterback. And that's why I think, Derek, I've been so strongly on, hey, there's going to be potentially some, pretty solid to potentially game-changing edge guys coming up here via trade or free agency or whatever, some proven guys that could help you take the next step into just being a good unit to being one of the top units. And so I think you got to get after the quarterback and make him uncomfortable. But again, you also need to surround your quarterback with the talent as well. And those are the 2 things, I think, the big reasons why we have said that's why you need, to give Anthony Richardson some weapons, and you need to surround him with as much talent as you possibly can, to just make life easier on him as well. So I think those are kind of the 3 things. The Colts have one of them, but I think there's 2 more that's why we say they need to address: pass rush and getting more weapons for Richardson. And I think if they can do that, I think they can be competitive. I really do.
Yeah, the one thing about Anthony Richardson, that definitely improves my way of thinking about it. I saw this stat the other day, Cody, and obviously over the span of a season, this number might likely go down. But in the times in which that Anthony Richardson was playing, in the short amount of time that we got to see before the injury, they said that on 72% of the red zone drives that the Indianapolis Colts made it to, 72% of the time resulted in a touchdown for the Indianapolis Colts. And it just goes to show. I was looking at the play that the Kansas City Chiefs won on in that game, and how, it looked exactly like something out of a Steichen playbook. They definitely have some similarities with how they can run it, because, with Anthony Richardson's athletic ability, it just opens up so many different things, and teams have to keep an eye out for that thing to happen in order for them to be able to try to stop him. But at the same time, it can leave somebody open. Obviously, like I said, that number would probably had dropped throughout the season, but Indianapolis, before Anthony Richardson went down, was the best red zone team in all of the NFL in results of touchdowns, which again shows you just what Richardson's skill set provides for the kind of offense that Steichen wants to do in the red zone. And how many years, Cody, have we been saying that the Colts offense has just been horrendous in the red zone, right? Because there's been no creativity. It's just run the ball up the middle with Jonathan Taylor, and if that doesn't work, then it's just whatever. Like that's been the only thing, and teams have been able to lock in on it. Versus now, right, with what we've seen, even in the red zone for Minshew, I mean, it opened up a lot of different things for them in that regard. So I think that the Colts have the right coach to compete with that. You need a young offensive mind to be able to combat, the offense of the Kansas City Chiefs. You have the quarterback that you feel could be able to run that kind of offense and provide you with that kind of points that you need to be able to get going. But what are some of the things that Indianapolis desperately needs to be able to compete with the Kansas City Chiefs?
I mean, I think, yeah, you need to continue to just add to this roster. You need to continue to get weapons. You need to continue to get better at pass rush. And, I think ultimately you just need these guys to stay healthy. I really do think that. If these guys can stay healthy, I think there's a lot of optimism for this team moving forward. You just need guys to stay healthy and guys to grow together. And I think if you can get that, I think you have a great chance. I really do. But obviously the most important one is Anthony Richardson staying healthy, developing, and continuing to get better. And what better way to help him grow than to give him weapons and support around him? So I think those are the big things the Colts need to do on top of some of the other things I talked about earlier. So, yep.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, I mean, the Kansas City Chiefs kind of showed you that even when they didn't have everything firing on all cylinders, the main thing to have is the quarterback. Ultimately, if you have an elite quarterback and a good offensive play caller, then you have a situation in which your team will always have a chance to win. And I think Indy definitely can have that as long as Anthony Richardson elevates to where we think they can be. But 100%, you got to make sure that you're building the rest of this roster. I mean, we got to continue to get better corners. And right now it's kind of funny because the Kansas City Chiefs don't have a ton of elite weapons outside of Travis Kelce, but who knows if he's even going to play after this year. I mean, there's a lot of people wondering if, he's gone, but I mean, think about this, Cody. They traded Tyreek Hill, 2 years ago and have won back-to-back Super Bowls without him. Yep. I mean, they haven't even really had a situation where they've had a drop off. It just is that good of Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and Andy Reid at this point. So I would think less on the defensive side of things, because ultimately the Kansas City Chiefs have shown you it does not matter who they have on the offensive side. If they have Patrick Mahomes, they are immediately a huge threat to do anything. So I don't really look too much to the defensive side. I look more towards the offense just being able to be as elite as possible so that they can be like what Patrick Mahomes can, where, you have those weapons that say, hey, like, you have all these weapons to be able to throw the football to. You don't need to put it all in your hands to win every single play. Have trust in these guys to be able to handle the rock and be able to move forward with yourself. So I think that Indy, they just need to keep building that offense, dude. I know everyone keeps saying defense, 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 but ultimately Indy needs to keep building that offense around Anthony Richardson if they want to have a chance to be like Kansas City to try and win the Super Bowl.
Yep, and that's what we've seen. We've said this trend over the last number of years with these young quarterbacks. What have teams done is they've gone out and they've gotten these teams weapons. They really, really have. And again, Patrick Mahomes had Tyreek Hill for the first couple of years. That certainly was helpful in his development, wasn't it? But again, when you feel confident enough, I think the Chiefs did, where you're like, we can trade Tyreek for a couple first-round picks, help that to rebuild and replenish other parts of our roster. And we know that Patrick Mahomes, just with how good he is, he can elevate the other guys, and keep this offense going at a high level. And so I think that's what we've seen them do, even with their defense, Derek. We've seen them, kind of put back some of those resources from that Tyreek Hill trade into rebuilding other parts of their roster. And I think that's what they had to do. But again, when you have a quarterback that's so young, I think the proper thing to do in what the Colts should do is building around him and building that confidence up so that, when he's due for a paycheck, hopefully he's to that level where you feel comfortable enough where you're like, we don't have to go out there and get him a Tyreek Hill type of player. Like, obviously that'd be great to have, but again, he can elevate some of these guys and we can, put a lot of our other resources in some other ways to support him, right? Whether it's on the defensive side of things, whether it's, on the offensive line, whatever it is, or going and getting somebody, I don't know. But I think that's where you are right now if you're the Colts is build around Anthony Richardson and let it go. Let him go to work and let him grow. And hopefully in a couple of years when his contract is due, he'll be at the place where you feel comfortable enough with him, like the Chiefs are obviously with Mahomes, where all you need is him, really. Like, that's all you need is to know, like, when he's on the field, you have a good chance to, basically score at any time, at any place. And so that's kind of how I feel about, what the Colts need to do. And I think they're in a good position to do it.
Absolutely, man. It's definitely going to be fun. And I mean, Indy's going to have to try to find a way to compete against the Kansas City Chiefs dynasty. Hopefully we have some of the answers to do that, but can they keep building to try and take them down? But let us know your thoughts, guys, on the Colts trying to be the dynasty killer for the Kansas City Chiefs. Let us know your thoughts. Thank you so much for tuning in. And as always, guys, go Colts.